evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Melanie and I'm on the programs team at Hornsby Library. I'm really excited to welcome you to our online event this evening. I'd just like to begin by recognising the traditional owners of the lands of Hornsby Shire, the Darug and Gurungai peoples, and pay respects to their ancestors and elders past, present, and to their heritage. Hornsby Council acknowledges and upholds their intrinsic connections and continuing relationships to country. Tonight, I'm so excited to introduce you all to Ruby Boukabou. Ruby is a travel and culture reporter and an artist who spends her time between Australia, France and North Africa, depending on the weather. She's written for many international publications and her books include The Art Lover's Guide to Paris, The Architecture Lover's Guide to Paris and Scents in the City, Paris. Ruby's a cabaret performer and a tap dancer. She starred in Paris by Night and various other shows, and she also hosts the Sense in the City podcast. We've got so much to talk about, so we're going to get going. But what I'd like to do to give you a taste of where the conversation is going to go is play you a quick teaser of her book. Okay, so it's been a little while since any of us have seen something like that in real life, I'm sure. I hope you've all got a glass of something delicious and French, and let's all welcome and introduce Ruby. Hi, Ruby.
Hi, bonjour, I should say. Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello. I have to say there's this part of me that's tempted to try and get out my high school French, and I keep wanting to do it, but I'm going to spare everybody's ears because my accent is very poor.
Which is why you need to just get that suitcase that's over that I can see over there that needs to be packed and taken off. Time to book it.
Absolutely do. Now, everybody, I'm sure that you'll have lots of questions for Ruby as we go through our discussion tonight. So if you do, please just pop them into the Q&A box that you can see down the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to those towards the end of the evening. So Ruby, as I said in the introduction, you are a writer and you spend your time between Australia, Africa and France. What is it about Paris in particular that's drawn you to write about it?
So I've been living part-time in Paris since around 2005, maybe, give or take. So it's kind of Paris is one of my homes. So it's a place that I connect with. It kind of goes with my pulse. There's so much going on in a cultural level. It's just incredible. And I've been writing a lot of travel articles for many years. So I like helping people make the most out of Paris, not fall into the tourist traps, find about, go see whatever you want to see, but around the corner, there's a little jazz bar and you're going to meet these people, and down there's an alleyway and have you seen this? So little tips that they won't find elsewhere. So I've done lots of articles and I really like doing that. And so these two books, because there's architecture and also the first one, which is The Art Lover's Guide to Paris, they were actually commissions. So they were commissions from White Owl. And I just kind of threw myself into them and really enjoyed helping people get into the back streets and getting lots of tips and insider information, and also just appreciating such a beautiful city. I mean, who can't?
That's exactly right. And something that I was saying to Ruby before we came online is, like everybody, like we've been living in such a small world for such a long time now, it seems, and certainly I have not really given any thought to travel or to planning a trip for for that time. And there was something about going back and opening up a travel guide again and going through and, you know, having that experience that actually made me feel quite emotional. It's funny that, you know, the thought of, and, you know, and we're at that stage where actually we know that we soon can get on a plane and go somewhere again. But I found it really overwhelming. But what's it been like for you, Ruby, not being able to travel at the moment?
I've had a pretty good time. Like, obviously it's nice to be able to jump on a plane and move whenever you want to, but you know, I personally can't complain. Especially we're so lucky in this part of the world with all the bushland that we've had around us, and you know, I've got a tap studio in the backyard, so there's flowers everywhere, there's a hammock, there's a tap studio. I really can't complain. You know, and did a cabaret, I've done some other projects. So, but having said that, I was reading my book on the train today. I went to Balmoral Beach, which was beautiful. It was like really nice to be out and about at the beach. And I was reading it because I knew I had this tonight. And I was learning things and enjoying it and thinking, oh yes. So it will be nice to go back. Yeah, so it's nice to have the time out to think about, you know, your goals, what you want to do, and really appreciate small things. And then I'm looking forward to going back when the weather gets better over there. Like spring.
One of the things that I've enjoyed getting ready for tonight is listening to the Spotify list that you made for us. And I know we sent it out to everyone, and I hope you've all had a chance to enjoy it. How important is music to you when you're setting the scene and getting into, you know, into that vibe of getting back to Paris?
Yeah, well, I'm always, for the first book when I wrote this one, The Art Lover's Guide to Paris, Debussy was my composer. So the whole time I had Debussy on loop. And it was that kind of autumnal falling leaves expressionism that I just had it. It was kind of, because the writing process is such a long process that you want to enjoy it. You know, whether one person or a million people buy a book, you're spending a lot of time writing it, so you want to enjoy it. So I would buy flowers and put them on my table. I edited that one when I was in Paris, and I listened to Debussy, and it just kind of made the whole experience more evocative. And then for this one, I tried Ravel, but sometimes halfway through it would suddenly get really loud. He's like, whoa. So I kind of went back to Debussy. But otherwise, I have been talking to my publisher about perhaps doing a music and dance lover's guide to Paris, because that's, you know, my Paris is the jazz and the music, and there's millions of concerts every night of the week. There's literally dozens of concerts every night of the week. And the cabaret that I just did, the Paris by Night, that we talked about that, and we did a musical tour through Paris. So yeah, music, you can't live without music, of course.
Oh, wow. Well, that sounds like something for us all to look forward to, Ruby. That would be amazing if you're able to do that. In fact, you know, one of the things I really enjoyed about the books is that they're not just a travel guide, or what, you know, I think of as being a travel guide. For someone like me who, and I feel like a bit of an imposter for doing this tonight because I actually have never been to Paris. And I know. But there's been like so many amazing things that I learned, and you know, you've got like a really easy to absorb sort of overview of the history of the architecture and how it came to be, which was really great for me. It really helped put things into context, but at the same time I can see that somebody who has been there before would also discover a lot of new things. What are you hoping that people will get out of the book?
Well, when I edited it, so I ended the research just before I came back to Australia, and then it was COVID. So yes. I was editing during COVID, so I made sure that the book was not just for people that, so it's a physical guide. You're there, there's walking tours, people are there and they're finding the best cafe to go to, and the restaurants, and a canal tour, and oh, I need to do it here, it's at 11 o'clock they do this thing. So there's lots of all that kind of very practical information that you could literally just fill your whole trip with tours from the book. But also I wanted to make sure that it was something for anyone. So a third of the photos are mine, and I also just wanted to make it, just very accessible, because I think travel journalism recently has just been about, okay, this is about a place and you're going to go there, so you want to know where to eat, where to sleep and all this kind of things. But historically, travel journalism was so that you could expand your mind and think about a place and learn about it and hear a story about it, and that was enough. You don't have to plan it. You don't need to read about a place because you're planning a trip there. You can still travel vicariously and think about it and learn about it and be inspired by it. You don't actually need to get on a plane and go there. So I really wanted to cater to both audiences. And it's not just COVID that have stopped people going to Paris. Maybe you're working full time, or maybe it's too expensive, or maybe it's, you're too busy, or you're juggling too much things. There's many reasons that you may be able to go to Paris and many reasons that you may not be able to go. And I think you can still appreciate Paris and hopefully the book, if you're planning a trip or if you're not planning a trip.
Absolutely. But as you said, like it's the perfect book to pop into your handbag to carry around. So it would be the perfect
size, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I got it, and these ones I kind of like the cover of it, and it's a good handbag. Yeah, it's a nice handbag.
Well, there's nothing worse than being away and having a brick of a book that you actually can't use or take anywhere with you, or that tips you over your baggage allowance. So like you mentioned this, it's obvious that you've done a huge amount of research into the book, and I know you talked about that a little bit, but one of the things I enjoyed is that you included like a lot of tips from locals or experts, and I just wondered about how you went about finding those people to speak to, and if there's anybody that stands out as somebody that you really enjoyed meeting.
So for both books, actually, I mean, because I've been living in Paris for a long time, obviously I've got a good network. So I remember with the first one, with the Art Lovers Guide to Paris, I got there and I called my friend Lila. I said, okay, we're going to an exhibition tonight. I found this place. It's near your house. Let's go in the Marais. And we got there and we went downstairs, and it was down this staircase, and it was, the exhibition was a t-shirt and a pair of underwear on the ground. That was it. And I was like, I'm sorry, let me buy you dinner. But it was kind of funny. And then, so part of it was, and she was a local, so she kind of went, don't worry, we're going to go here, here, and here. So part of the filtering, answering also another question, I kind of filtered out places that I thought people may or may not want to go. But also, afterwards you can ask the question, what is art? So all this kind of thing. But so I have a really lovely, nice network of friends that I contacted, and then also there were just other people. Like I researched artists for this one, and then I would send them an email, or I would call them and I would say, can I take you for coffee? Can we have a chat? And for this one, I basically said, does anyone know anyone who's an architect? And then I would meet them and pick their brains and talk about it. And so, so it was a mix of friends I know, friends of friends, and just research and then emailing and calling.
Wonderful. I feel like what the end result is that rather than having something where you kind of check off the list of the things that you have to do to pop up on your Instagram, it's something where you're going to end up with having more of an experience of what it's really like to be in Paris. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, because the other thing is I wanted the book not just to be a guide to when you go, I wanted the book to be an experience in itself. Because my background's in theatre. So for me, anything, even a short story, you should be having an experience. It's not because you're going to go there and then you'll have the experience or this. No, the book in itself is entertainment, and hopefully you'll learn something, but also you should be able to enjoy it and be entertained and have a good time, because that's what, that's my background in theatre. It means that you always need to entertain someone while they're with you in your presence.
Well, I think that you've done that very well. Now, like I was saying earlier, I did genuinely feel a little bit teary looking while reading through the book. And of course, the photographs had a lot to do with that. And I didn't realise until I'd been going through it for a little while that, in fact, you have taken a lot of the photos. A lot of them are yours. And I know you've got some to show us tonight. So I'm really excited to see those.
Yes, so I'm just going to show you some of the photos. So I took the photos and it was just getting cold. So I remember near the end, I was looking out the window thinking, oh, there's a blue sky, I have to get out. And there was a metro strike. So people, if you want to know how to lose weight, go to Paris during a metro strike. And I came back really skinny because you're walking around taking photos. So there's a chapter on the train stations, and this beautiful Belle Epoque style. They were like windows to the other world. So, for example, the Impressionists that you can read about in the first book, they could take their paints and jump on a train and go to the countryside and paint for the day and come back. So it represents opening, travel, excitement, new places. Oh, so here's the Temple de Cibele in the Butte-Chaumont. This is where I go for my morning jog. I just love the neoclassical arches. It's named after an oracle of Delphi. So you finish your jog or your walk, you go up to the top and you look out over Paris. So what you can't see here is you're looking out over the park and over Sacré-Cœur and Montmartre in the distance. And it's just a beautiful place to finish a jog. And this is when I decided the theme of the book, which was instead of just knowing about architectural places and buildings, how can I climb it and be closer to it? How can I see a concert in the church? How to be involved in a building to make the experience more active. So there's also a chapter on places to get beautiful views, because I think when you get to a city, it's really nice to see the place for a beautiful lookout. And this is one of them, which is on the top of the Printemps department store. And it's actually quite beautiful. You can go to it. There's a cafe bar that you can go to. This is on the top of menswear. Otherwise, you can just go there for free and look out. And you see the Eiffel Tower. That's the Madeleine Church. And I love this weather clock. This is the house of Nicolas Flamel. So this is the oldest stone house built in 1407. And he was an alchemist and a philanthropist. And what I really like about it, it's in the Marais, is this the detail. So if you're not looking, you just walk past this house and not even think about it. But you stop and look, there's this little stone carved angel musician, and you think, who is he? And who's the person that carved it? And I think it's charming. This is the Pantheon, which is one of my favorite buildings in Paris. So grand, neoclassical. So it's 83 meters tall. It was originally built for Louis XV. So he wanted to thank God because he was very sick and he got better. And so he built this to say thank you. And then now it's a mausoleum for the great men in France and woman. There's one woman there, Marie Curie. But it's every time I go there, I'm just struck by it's just so grand and large, and inside it's so here we are inside, and it just kind of takes your breath away. It really does each time I go there. This is the Opera, another one of my favorite buildings in Paris, Opera de Paris, built in 1875 by Charles Garnier, actually built on top of a swamp. And this is the ceiling by Max Chagall. And this building is beautiful, and you can go and do a little tour by yourself of the galleries, and the light comes in. There's chandeliers, there's busts of famous lyricists, and it's really such a stunning, inspired building. It's one of my favorites. I love this shot. This is in a Printemps department store, and I think there's 21 shades of blue, green, pink, and gold. And this is on top of the Art Deco brasserie. And you have to sit underneath and have a rich, intense hot chocolate and look up, and it's just stunning. René Binet was the designer of the dome. This is just a nice shot of the Eiffel Tower, because you don't often think, I don't think people often realize or think about the Eiffel Tower of being next to the Seine. So this is, I took a cruise. It's a really nice way to see the monuments of Paris from a different way on the river. This is the Mosque of Paris, which is a beautiful place in the 5th arrondissement. And I go there often because they've got a courtyard cafe, and you go there, it's full of pigeons, and you have really strong coffee and North African sweets. And it's 33 meters, the minaret, and it's striking and beautiful. And I love this shot of just the birds flying around it. This is Centre Pompidou. And this is lots of architects. You say, what's your favorite building in Paris? And they say Centre Pompidou. Why? Because even though it was constructed in 1977, it's Piano and Rogers, the architects, it's still modern because it's that inside out architecture. See, as you can see, the elevator, the escalator is the word I was looking for, is on the outside, the ducts on the outside. It's an inside out building. And where I'm sitting is Café Boukabou, which is another thing in the book that I always tell you, okay, here's the building, but here's the cafe that you can go and sit down, and it has really good front bar or whatever. So that was at night. I was with a friend, and it's just a beautiful building, beautiful shop. This is at the beginning of one of the walking tours. I love this this sculpture of time for everything. As it's Gare Saint-Lazare, one of the other train stations. The Génie de Liberté. This is in Bastille, and it reminds me, one of the first times I went to Paris, I'd always see it glistening on top when I was working with a theatre company, and you'd see it shining and think, I'm in Paris. It represents the 1830 revolution, and he's the spirit of freedom, and he's got the broken chains in one hand and the torch for humanity in the other hand. And I just love seeing the sun glint off it, and it's the beginning of one of the other walks. Here is the Porte Saint-Denis, built in 1672 for Louis XIV, through which he would come back through the arches from his victories in the north. And you could probably write a book just on this one arch. You know, I love this cute little lion head, and there's Egyptian motifs, and there's just so much to look at, and it's beautiful and it's dramatic, and that's in the 10th arrondissement. Of course, Paris is Paris without all the street furniture, and I have a chapter in the book about street furniture. And here's the metro signs, which were the metro, which came to be in 1900 for the World Fair when the Eiffel Tower was built. And these, they had a competition, and nobody won because they didn't like anything. So they asked an architect from Lyon to make it. And these are meant to be like orbs. They could be insect eyes, they could be flowers, but it was very organic, Art Nouveau. And this style now, the typeface of Métropolitain is now known as Art Nouveau style. This is in a chapter called Underground Paris, which is all about the jazz bars, the wine bars, the cheese, and also things like the metro and going underground in Paris. And here, because it was so low, they used to actually have people that would have to pull the boats through. So that would be a pretty hard job, but it's quite beautiful now to glide through it in a tour. This is one of the beautiful parks, and these Corinthian arches are beautiful, that I'd like to go to in Parc Monceau. I'd like this because it was thought one of the oldest building, then it found it wasn't, but I just like it's in the Marais in one of the tours. I like the collision and the old kind of style with the downstairs is a Vietnamese restaurant. And here, if you look to the right, you'll see a little Space Invader. And there's a chapter in Art Lover's Guide to Paris on street art, and there's Space Invaders all over the world, but there's many in Paris, so it's kind of fun to spot them. So there's a little Space Invader, there's a big Chinese and Vietnamese community, so that represents that, and then there's Old Paris. This is St. Paul, church in St. Paul in the Marais. And I just wanted to include it because there's a chapter on churches and other places of worship. And this is a beautiful thing to do in Paris. And something that you wouldn't think of in many cities, to go and sit in a church. But of course, there's cafes you can sit in. But why not go when I'm walking a lot in Paris, the churches are free. You go in, you're tired, you need to just sit down for a minute, and you sit there and you look around, and there's artwork and chandeliers, and the architecture is really interesting, and you just reflect. And I think that it's a really nice thing to do that you just wouldn't think of doing something like that in Australia and many countries. And it doesn't matter whether you're religious or not. They're everywhere you go in, you have time out. It's like meditation, and you look around and admire the art. So there's a whole chapter on that. This is the Arène de Lutèce, which is first century Roman amphitheatre. And I just happened to be there on the day that these two young men were practicing their fencing. So it kind of felt quite fun. And there's a walking tour there's a gallery, there's a walking tour of the covered galleries that you can read about in the book. And to finish with, this is outside the Opera de Paris, Opera Garnier. And the other thing I want to do in the book is make people stop and appreciate the detail. So you can rush between the opera and the jazz bar and the shopping and your hotel, or you could stop and look at, you can just sit in front of this and look at the detail. And I think it's quite beautiful. And that's the other thing I want to do in the book. Just help people slow down and appreciate the detail. Et voila.
Thank you, Ruby. That was such a pleasure to get to see all of this. Thank you for sharing them with us. One of the things you said early on when you started showing the photos was that you sort of like to get in and have a look at the architecture from a different perspective or a different angle and really get up amongst it. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what that means to you to do that?
So I like to be involved in things. It's, it's nice to write about history or something else, but I like to be active in something. So if you're taking your photo, how do you engage with the monument? It's more like a sense of place. How does this place make me feel? Oh, the high ceilings give me a sense of space and I feel free, or it's so intricate. It's like a piece of artwork that I can look at. So when you're looking at it through the lens of your camera, you can really zone in on a place and see it as almost like a theater set, because they're places that we live in, and every architecture changes how we feel. And it was nice to actually be involved in this by taking photos. And hopefully people who are going with the book, then they can take their own photos and get into that side of the architecture also.
I bet everybody is feeling like, brimming with that fizzy excitement of thinking about which of those places they might have been to or which ones they'd like to go to next time they're in Paris. Now, one of the things that you've got in Architecture's Guide is, I keep wanting to hold it more centrally, is you've got 6 different walking tours in it, and they're all wonderful. But something that Ruby has done for us, which I'm really excited about, is she's actually created like a Google Earth walking tour. So Ruby's actually going to take us on a virtual tour of Paris, which I think is pretty exciting. Now, there's so much detail in it. I know that Ruby won't be able to get to every single thing, but she's actually shared the link of that with us. So we will share that with you after the event. So you'll be able to go through it at your own time and really enjoy every detail. But Ruby, whenever you're ready, take us to Paris.
Yes, okay. So here we are. There's Paris. So we're going to zigzag along. And so how's it start? Let's have a look. So here we are, Pont des Arts. It connects over here the Institut de France with the Louvre. Is the Louvre over here. So it was built in 1802, and it was the first metal bridge in Paris. And it was rebuilt in 1984 because a barge crashed into it. It's a bridge that's really famous, and people do paintings on it. People have proposed marriages on it. I made a film on it with Elise McLeod that you can also click to when you do the tour by yourself and see the film there where we tap dance on it. And it's a really nice bridge. So next, you walk up here and you find Pont Neuf. So Pont Neuf is the oldest bridge in Paris, connecting the left and the right banks with the Ile de la Cité. So here it is. It's got the 2 spans. And in the middle, there's Henri IV. He's the one that opened the bridge on horseback. And underneath it, there's these mascarons. So here these, I think they're quite funky. So you go there at night and there are these faces, and they were designed to deter evil. So that's the bridge under, so this is at night. See, they're all around here. Go into here, this is the Square de Vergalon. And it's just a lovely little square. A square is actually, this one's quite triangular. There's an Australian brother and sister duo called Bel Roscoe. And we did an interview and we ended up with a little singing lesson. We had a little sing-along down here. So you can have a look at that. It's quite nice. But as you can see, it's very romantic and nice, and you sit under the willow tree. Next, you go into Place Dauphine. Now, Place Dauphine was one of the first planned squares in Europe. built 3 years after the bridge in 1607. Old men are playing petanque. There's these trees. You can have a fancy coffee. And at the other side is the old Palais de la Justice. Then we're going to keep going over the bridge. And here we're going to find my friend Cyril. So when you're in Paris, go say, bonjour, Cyril. And he's a bouquinist. And the bouquinists have been in Paris since the 16th century. And there's about 900 stands. So each bouquinist has a few stands. Look what he's holding. The Art Lovers Guide to Paris. Wow. And then keep on going to Place Michel. So Place Michel here is it's actually the entrance to the Latin Quarter. And if any of you came to my cabaret last 2 weeks ago, we go to the Latin Quarter to all the jazz clubs. There's a lot of jazz clubs there. But this is the entrance. And people often meet at this fountain. And it's St. Michael slaying the dragon, 1855. So now let's cross over here. And obviously when you do it by yourself, you can take time and look at it and you can choose the angles. This is the Pont de Michel. And you look over, you see a musician making a little video clip, and it's all very cool. And on this bridge also, there's a big N, and the N, of course, stands for Napoleon. Keep going, and here is Sainte-Chapelle. Sainte-Chapelle was built in 1248, and it is stunning. It is simply stunning. You can read about the architectural details in my book, but one of the most beautiful things is the stained glass windows. So it was inspired, it's a Gothic style inspired by many different influences, including 5th century Syria. And I went to see a concert and I had an out-of-body experience when the French Baroque flautist played a tune that was incredible with the magical lighting filtered through the stained glass windows. And the flautist was, ladies and gentlemen, Jane Rutter from Australia. So that was beautiful. And it's they do lots of concerts in churches and it's a really wonderful thing to do. So that's such a better. So now we walk through the flower market. There's a flower market and there's lots of trinkets and flowers and it's really beautiful. And these are the Wallace fountains, another part of very Parisian architecture that was free drinking water for the people. And there was a rush when they first opened of people trying to be the first there, and you can still drink water out of them. And it's Rue de Lutèce. Lutèce was the old word for Paris. And in the street furniture chapter, you can read all about the street lamps, which are very Parisian. And in the 17th century, you could actually hire someone to walk around the streets with a lamp with you at night. Next, we're going to where are we going? We're going to the Tour de Horloge. So this is the oldest public clock in Paris. And as you walk past it, it's quite beautiful. It's very gold. Conciergerie is there, the last place where they kept Marie Antoinette. The Pont au Change, this is like the ancient Western Union. This is where people used to change their money. So you change your money there. And here is the Place du Châtelet. So this is like the center of Paris. There's 2 neoclassical theaters here. So this is, which are beautiful. And it used to be like the stronghold with the prison, the police headquarters and so forth. But now there's this fountain, which I love. There's a fountain with this, with a column. And it's something also that you just maybe just walk past and not really think too much about, but you stop and you look up and you have an experience. This is the gorgeous Hôtel de Ville. And I have a funny story of my friend who on her honeymoon, she went there and she was going to check in because she thought it was a hotel. But no, the Hôtel de Ville is the town hall. And this is it's a Renaissance, but it was burnt down, but rebuilt in the same style. Instead of putting the royalist stuff, they did the French mottos instead. But it's a beautiful, beautiful building. Here, we're going to quickly pop in for a jazz concert at a paniche, because you can't go to Paris without hearing jazz, of course. And I've done little gigs here and also singing. So you literally pop away here downstairs. You look out these little holes and you go see a jazz concert. Really nice. They've got a really nice program. This is Pont Marie, which is the second oldest bridge, and apparently it used to have houses on it. This is me with my friend Natalie. I didn't have any photos of it, so this is my friend Natalie, who was my editor in London, and she came to visit me. It's a good place to bring friends. And we just kind of wandered across. Now we're going to the Ile Saint Louis. So the Ile Saint Louis is I'm sure that many of you know it. It's the second natural island in Paris, and it's very villagey. And when you're there, you have to have gelato. It's part of the tradition. Then we come across another bridge, Pont Saint Louis, and here, I directed a little video clip of the Australian jazz singer Wendy Lee Taylor, and there she is. And so you can have a look at that clip when you go through it. So that's a little bridge, and you'll always hear buskers on this bridge. There's like gypsy kids playing Sur le ciel de Paris. There's other buskers, and it's quite nice. And then you go this next bridge, and we're nearly at the end, is the Archbishop's Bridge, and this is where we used to go to busk. So I used to busk here, so that's me tapping. And there's John Matthews and Michael O'Doherty, and behind us over here is Notre Dame. And here they've taken them down with those dreadful love locks that vandalized Paris, and they had to take them all off because the bridges were about to collapse, where people would declare their love and throw the key to pollute the Seine, but luckily they don't do that anymore. Second last bridge is also one of my favorites. Now, it was only built in 1928, but what I love about it is that it has the patron saint of Paris, Saint Genevieve, holding the baby, which is Paris, and it's the same sculpture as Rio de Janeiro, Christ the Redeemer. I love this, and especially at night, it's all lit up and gorgeous. So that's Paul Ledowski is the sculptor. Then we go through Pont de Sully, this one, and there's another walking tour that you actually come from Bastille, and you can look at this. There's a little park I discovered, and you walk down and you can sit on the banks, and that's a really beautiful way to look at it. And so you cross this part. So we've just gone over here, we've gone down here, we cross it, and we finished the tour at the Institut du Monde Arabe, the Arab World Institute, which is a beautiful contemporary Jean Nouveau building, another one of my favorite buildings in Paris. So it's got steel, aluminium and glass, and it just shines when you get there. It's sparkling from across the Seine, and you can climb up to the top. That's the view from the top, and it's free to get up there. Yeah, it's one of my favorite buildings also. And then you finish your tour. That's one of the 6 tours that I think are really nice to do. They're fun, they get you moving, you get to walk off all those croissants and French meals you've had, and it's a really nice way to experience, and you go at your own pace, whether you're doing it on Google Maps or real, if you're doing it physically. And it's a really nice way to discover a city by walking through it.
Ruby, thank you. That was absolutely amazing. Now, everybody, we are coming towards the end of our time together. We've still got a few things to talk about, but if you've got any questions for Ruby, please pop them into the Q&A box. Now, we would love to hear from you. And even if you just wanted to, I guess share a comment or a memory, it doesn't have to be a question, because I'm sure that many of you watching have been to some of the places Ruby's talking about, and we'd love to hear from you. The stained glass is all talking to me, Ruby. That's something that I look forward to seeing. Now, tonight in our talk, we've focused a lot on the Architecture Lover's Guide to Paris, because that's Ruby's newest book. But as Ruby mentioned, there's more than one. There's also the Art Lover's Guide to Paris. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but before we get stuck into that, we might get Ruby to show us the teaser for that, because that's really lovely. Thank you, Ruby. That was so cute. I really, really enjoyed that chat. So one of the things that I really enjoyed with that was that, like you say, in it, you don't just talk about going and looking at art in galleries and museums. You actually really talk about getting in amongst it. I really loved the chapter on street art, which is something that I really personally enjoy. But you also talk about things like how to go to an auction or how to go about buying art or even going to classes. Is that something that you enjoy doing yourself?
Yeah, I went to an art class with my friend Annie. It flew by. You have a quick little break for coffee, and we're drawing. And I was drawing this kind of. It started with a stick figure, and then I started getting creative. And my friends going, "You're Picasso, you're Picasso," and I'm like, "Do you think do this?" And so it's a really nice thing to do. You don't have to be like an artist. You don't need to be able to draw. It doesn't matter if you're ever going to look at the picture again or 19 euros. So it's like just cheap. 3 hours of entertainment, you're drawing, you're trying something else, so that was really fun. And the other kind, there's lots of other kind of hands-on things also that you could do every Thursday night and some Saturday nights. There's probably 24 art openings over Paris, so you go to the opening, you look at some art, someone will see you by yourself, they'll probably think that you're a buyer or something and they'll come and want to talk to you. So it's a really nice thing to do. You'll meet people. Next minute that you're going to another one with people that you've met at that one. It's a very social thing to do. It's very nice. If you don't feel like talking to someone, you just go and look at the art and see how it makes you feel. And you can reflect if you're in a good mood, if you're in a bad mood, if you're feeling moody, if you're feeling happy. There's many artists that have felt the same things that you felt over the generations, and you can bond with them and come out better from having that experience. So yeah.
Amazing. Ruby, I can see I've got a few audience questions, so I'm going to go through to them now. And one of them is asking about, I know we touched on this right at the very beginning, that you have a podcast. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that, because I know that Paris does come into that.
Yes, so Sense in the City, it started as a book, and I did Sense in the City. The idea was, okay, with cities, yes, you can look at them and you can experience them, but to really plunge yourself into a city, what does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What can you hear? What can you feel? So that started as a book, and then entrepreneur David Fuller, who was in Dubai at the time but is now in Athens, took it on as a project. And we have Alexia, a Greek journalist who does the Athens Sense in the City. I've been doing the Sydney one, and now they're podcasts. And the idea of the Sense in the Cities, it's for people going to the city, but also to inspire people to, okay, we might not be able to travel now, but you can walk down the street to get milk or whatever. Stop, think, what are you smelling? What do you listen to the bird? Look at that. Oh, I didn't see that flower before. Does it smell? And it helps. I think you can travel without moving anywhere, and just to help you be more present in the moment, whether you're traveling to the other side of the globe or whether you're going to Hornsby Library.
That's right. And in fact, we were saying earlier before we went live that one of the things that's come out of the pandemic for us is how much we can re-experience and really enjoy things that that we've missed while we've been in lockdown, and even going to a place like Balmoral that most of us have been lots of times. We're really seeing it with new eyes and really appreciating it when we get to go back.
Or, at home, like put on some music, cook a Spanish or French or whatever meal, smell it properly, taste it properly, read, okay, well, what's the history of Spain in the 15th century? Oh, there's all, smell the eucalyptus, and there's so many ways that we can travel and travel through our senses that makes it a more direct experience that we will always remember and appreciate more. So that's how the whole Sense in the City started, and it's a really exciting project.
Lovely. So we've got a question from Christine, who's asking, when do you think is a good time of year to visit Paris?
May is good for two reasons: because it's starting to get warm, but also because the poor Parisians have gone through this cold winter and they are so happy to see the sunlight that everyone's in a great mood. So go in April and May, probably May, and then, if you can, see if you can get down. I normally go down to the Cannes Film Festival in May, and then come back up to Paris. So that's a beautiful thing to do. Or, you know, while you're there in May, go to the Riviera. So go down to the Riviera and come back to Paris and do both of it. It's only 5 hours on the TGV. So have a bit of Côte d'Azur, bit of Paris. May, perfect time. The other time that I find is good is October. Not late in October because it's too cold. Early October, the quality of light is stunning. September, October, people have just finished their summer holidays. They've come back. They're getting back into the swing of things, so it's not too crowded. There's not too many tourists, and the light is beautiful. So that's really nice. Yeah, so May or October, early October.
Ruby, Jenny's asking how green the cityscape is.
Well, it's getting greener because the mayor at the moment is doing a big regeneration of Paris. So the banks of the Seine, now there's this Paris plage, so the Paris beach, which sounds ridiculous. And I used to go, oh, Paris beach, like, come on. But if you're living in Paris, you go down to the Seine, there's some sprinklers, there's a few cafes, there's a little bit of sand. It's actually quite nice. And there's a lot of parks. And that's kind of the saving grace of living in a big city. And there's a lot of things that the city's doing at the moment to future-proof the city with the rising temperatures, to have, so people can, there's places now that you can actually swim. You swim in the canal. There's a little kind of a swimming pool that you'd think, oh, I hadn't done it, and I was with my friend Elise, and she's from Melbourne. And I was like, really, do you think it's safe? Is it okay? And she's like, just think of it as a dam. Like, jump in. I was swimming, like, it's strange to be swimming in Paris. But so there's places you can swim, and there's lots of parks. There's planter boxes are coming back and becoming bigger. They're putting beehives on rooftops, especially at restaurants. So yeah, there's a lot of greenery, and it's outside town with the Ville. They're also doing an urban forest. So it's going to be greener and greener, I think. So that's a good thing.
And you do mention some of the nice green spaces in the book as well.
There's a chapter on parks. As I say, architecture, you know, like music is like sound and silence. Architecture is space and non-space, or, you know, buildings and other space. So there's a whole chapter on parks and squares. There's a lot of squares.
Okay, now somebody has asked a question that I wanted to ask, so I'm glad about that. They're asking if you can talk more about your cabaret performances and what it's like to perform in Paris.
Oh, Paris is a great place to perform. So I worked in a cabaret there, and then also mainly after that, I do a lot of concerts. So we do it ourselves, and we do it in bars, and people come, and the Paris audiences are really great. They're really nice and enthusiastic. They're good audiences. And the thing about Paris is, and one of the reasons that I like living in Paris is, you know, even mechanics go to the theatre. It's not like this, oh, you're arty, so you go to see arty things. No, it's not like that at all. Everyone appreciates culture. Everyone's out. Everyone would like a concert. It's very Parisian. People really like artists. So when you're performing, everyone appreciates it. It's a great audience. It's a really nice place to perform.
Amazing. And Ruby, I think you said that you've got a new show coming up soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do. So we did Paris by Night, which is a great show I did with Courtney Severini and Mark Harris at Claire's Kitchen, which we'll be doing later in the year. But next, on the 25th of January, I'm doing a show with Chris Cody, who I'm very excited about, who's a pianist, incredible pianist, who features in episode 1 of Sense in the City, Sydney. And he lived in Paris for 20 years. He's fabulous. And Daniela Barda, who's a singer who I also met in Paris and performed with at the Spiegel tent in Melbourne many years ago. And it's called Promenade à Paris. So I guess I'll put that on my site, rubytv.net. Yeah, so that's as of the 25th of January. And I just ordered on the bus to Balmoral, I ordered myself a ukulele because I thought I could do one number on the ukulele. So people can come for my ukulele Sydney debut also. But otherwise I'll be tap dancing and and Daniela will be singing, Chris will be playing the piano, and it's going to be really nice.
Look at us getting all the scoops of what's coming up. Thank you, Ruby. So I have no doubt that lots of people who've joined us tonight will be really interested in finding out more about where to get the books. Now, if you're local and you'd like to pop in, I would always recommend our beautiful friends at Novella at Warunga. They're a wonderful bookshop, and I know that they've got this in stock. But of course, if you would like to, you can also buy it from Ruby's website. And again, we will share those details with you. But Ruby, did you want to talk to us a little bit more about purchasing it from you?
rubytv.net. So you can either, if you want a digital copy, you can click on direct to the publisher, and you can click on and you can buy a digital copy. That's what you prefer. Otherwise, there's a bit further down that you go down to, and to get a signed copy, you send me an email and I send you an invoice and I will sign it. So let me know when you're sending that email who I should dedicate it to. Art Lover's Guide to Paris, as in the Art Lover's Guide to Paris without the at gmail.com.
Ruby, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. We've got a few thank yous coming through in the comments, and I want to thank you so much to everybody who's joined us tonight. It's been such a treat, and I just think, this is the perfect time for an event like this, as we're all getting ready to get excited about getting back out there again. So I hope that you've all had a wonderful time. Ruby, again, thank you so much. It has been such an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing everything with us about the books, and I hope your upcoming show goes amazingly. I hope some of the people that were here tonight are able to come along and see you as well. So all the best with everything, and thank you again so much.
Thank you. I want you to pack that suitcase up there and come and visit Paris.
I'll look forward to it. Okay, good night, Ruby, and good night, everybody else. Thank you.
See you soon.